Hi, once again, Corella again. This time, I'm here talking about a concept. Like I talk about metaphoric, like I was talking about metaphoric English as an aspect of English. Today, I'm not talking necessarily about English per se, although I may use English and maybe a little bit of Spanish and French as examples. What I'm talking about is a concept that will help you to understand language, not just if you're studying a foreign language, but help you to understand your own language. And we learned this when we were children, but a lot of times the way English is taught, it's taught in a way that people think, well, I speak the language. Whether you're speaking, let's say you're in class in Mexico, you say, well, I always speak Spanish, or, and Nana says, well, I always speak English, so I really don't have to know all this stuff about the language because I know how to say what I need to say. And then when you go to study a foreign language, then you have problems because you don't understand certain concepts. So one important concept that I would like to look at, and I'm right here and I hope you can see it, it's called regular versus irregular. You've heard this if you're studying your own language, or if you write papers and your professor says to you, you don't know your difference between a regular verb and an irregular verb, or a regular noun and an irregular noun, and even an adjective, or even an adverb. Okay. So let me explain to you the difference. When something is regular, it comes to the word from Latin. And if you speak Spanish, you recognize the word regular or regla, which means the rule. So regular means this is the rule that you teach someone in order to teach something as a model. So instead of teaching every verb in English language that follows the rule, you teach one verb, you teach the rule, and then that person studies that rule instead of studying each individual verb. So let me give you an example. I'm going to give you an example of the verb to talk in English. And then I'm going to give it to you in Spanish too, so you can see you see that this doesn't just apply to English, it also applies to Spanish. I can even give it to you in French, and you'll see that it also applies to French, So in Spanish, in English is to talk, in Spanish is to hablar, and in French is parler, right? Okay, so when I'm talking about a regular verb, I'm talking about, for example, the verb to talk. And I'm talking in the present indicative. And English verbs, well, there are exceptions, but generally speaking are easy to conjugate, okay? So first you need is the I, the you, the we, the they. These are the subjects. And in what form do you put the subjects? Then he and she and it. Well, now, remember, the verb to talk is going to it's going to stand for all verbs that follow the rule in English in the present indicative. So what I teach is you learn how to conjugate the verb to talk in the present indicative, and all verbs that follow that rule, you just do it like this. Substitute that verb for the verb to talk. So, first, you get rid of the to, because this is the verb and it's infinitive. And you don't say, I two talk, you two talk, we two talk. You just say, I talk to my mother, you talk to your father, or whatever. And then, you take the verb talk, and you bring it down. And then for he, she, and it, you take the verb talk, you bring it down. And then you add an S. So where I, you, we, they is only talk, he, she, it is talks. If you were to do the verb hablar, and let me over here, right? And this AR stands for our TO in English. What do? You get rid of the AR, and then you just work with the HABL, and now all you have to worry about is the endings, right? So this is the ending for yo, This is the ending for tu, as. This is the ending for él, ella, and usted, a. This is the ending for nosotros, amos. And this is the ending for ellos, an is the ending for ellos, ellas, y ustedes. Okay? This hablar is a little bit more complicated than English, represents all regular verbs that end in AR in Spanish. Now in English you don't have all the AR, ER, not in French you have it, but not in English. In English all you have are verbs. The verb, there is no verb ending because verbs don't have a particular ending, but you have the two, right? And so if I were to make this negative in English, once again, following the rule, I, you, we, they, do not, and then the word talk, and then he, she, it, a little bit more complicated. Instead of do not, it's does not, and now you bring that talk, but you leave the S behind. And that's the rule. And for Spanish, all you do is add no. And I'm not going to put it, I put it like here, and it's no. No hablo, no hablas, no habla, no hablamos, no hablan. Okay. That's for the regular verbs. The problem comes in is when a verb doesn't follow the rule. That's when the problem comes in. Let me give you an example in English very quickly because time is running out. And I give you an example in Spanish also. Once again, we're only talking about the present indicative. Okay, this is not very well. Let me see here. Okay. All right. You have the verb, let me see. The most obvious verb would be the verb to be, okay? The verb to be in English. This is the most, yeah, I think I could say, if not the most, one of the most irregular verbs in the language. Okay, so if you try to make this verb regular, and you hear people who do, it would be I, you, we, they, then he, she, and it. And you've heard people say, well, I'd be happy and I'd be, or he bees, if I were following the rule. But it doesn't follow the rule. You know that. It doesn't follow the rule at all. What you have to do is, you have to completely rewrite the word. Why? I don't know. It's something to do with the English language back in the day. Who knows why this verb kept so many different forms, more forms than any other language. I mean, more than any other verb, right? So, all this is out. It's not like you can do the verb to do, to be. I mean, the verb to talk, excuse me. So, this you have to memorize. I am. You, we, they are. He, she, it is. The verb ser or estar in Spanish are also irregular. They don't follow the rule. It's soy for yo, eres for tú, es for él, ella, usted, somos for nosotros, oops, and son for ellos, ellas, and ustedes. Now I'm running out of time, so let me just say this very quickly. Here's the difference between a regular and an irregular anything, whether you're talking about a verb, a noun, adverb, adjective, anything. Here's the difference. The regular verb, all you have to do is study the model and follow that model. An irregular verb, and then, also with a regular verb, you can predict what the word is going to look like because you know the model. An irregular verb, all bets are off. You don't know how the irregularity is going to manifest itself. It may be something very simple and just one little change, or it might be, as an example of these verbs right here, it may be a total and complete change. With the verb estar, the only irregularity is really here, estoy. Everything else, estás, está, estamos, están, basically follows the rules. You don't know. So an irregular verb, noun, adverb, adjective must be memorized. I'll be back to talk about other things about regular and irregular. But until now, thank you so much. This is Corrala Bickler McLean at, I don't have it up here, but istudyguides.com. Thank you.